Alright. It's back down here. That's where it's going to be. Alright, maybe that'll work. Good grief, I don't know. Let me move it back a little further. Bring the wide angle on this one. And I'll go turn the music down. Bouncy, bounce, bounce. Look at that, I've already blown 20 seconds just getting set up. Okay, let me, kids, boys and girls, need to come up a little bit. Maybe. Alright, we're going to build a cache tube. I wish it was C-A-S-H tube, but this is a C-A-C-H-E cache, as in storing, hiding, secreting things away, or putting it for later. Let me go turn this down right quick. Okay, I've already done a little bit of the pre-cutting and things like that so that this doesn't turn into a 2-hour video. I don't have a good, video editing in me still, we hadn't figured out how to cope with style yet, so I don't know. What we're going to do is we're going to build, the idea is we're going to fit this guy, for no particular reason, into the tube here. And so I had to have something big enough, la la la, look at there, all the way down in there. Now if I put the bayonet on, of course, it wouldn't work, but I think it'd just be silly to store it with a bayonet anyway, so we're not going to do that. Let me get this back out of here again. The reason that we use 6-inch PVC here instead of 4-inch PVC, which is what this is that if we use 4-inch PVC, we're only going to be able to store that much of the rifle because it hits the bolt right there. And I could take the bolt out and maybe it would do it, maybe it wouldn't, because you still got the stock to deal with, and yeah, see, that doesn't fit either. So that's why we're using 6-inch PVC, and we're not using 6-inch flimsy POS PVC. We're using the good heavy thick stuff. I mean, this is the thick stuff. You can beat on this thing, drop it, whatever, and it's good PVC. This is Schedule 40. I'm pretty sure I probably can't read it because I just can't. What about this piece? Does it have it on there? Just so I'm not lying to you. It's Schedule 40. I know good and well it is. Doesn't matter if I can't see it. We're going to call it Schedule 40. So it's the good heavy thick stuff. It's also the good not so cheap stuff. Not to mention which the fittings we're going to use, which is going to be an end cap, a slip fit over the top, and a sewer drain vent cap, whatever it's called, threaded access cap, which is also a slip over the, like that fitting. This is the female fittings on both of these. These guys are not cheap either. Along with this, we have to have a cap to screw into the threads. It's a threaded cap that screws in like that. And that's what's going to seal it up and make it easy to get into so we don't have to cut it back open when we're done. Now with this on the outside, I'm going to come up with something. I'll probably make some little jicky wrench so that I'll always have some way, because once this gets on there and we put a little thread sealant compound in, it'll be hard to turn. It'll lock in pretty good because we don't want it leaking no stinking water in there. So for now, no, let me mention something else too before I forget. There's two different types. There's the female end like this, and there's also the male end. See, this doesn't fit. It's the same size outside as that right there. If you get that, and if that's all they've got, if you're going to make one of these and that's all they got, it's no big deal because just a regular slip fit coupler will do that, and then it works. But it's just an extra piece you have to buy, and there's no need for that. So, I smashed my finger, set that out of the way. Now, first thing I did was I cut this down. I measured what this was. This came out to just over 48 inches. 48 and a half pretty much. So we cut this guy at 50. That leaves a little bit of room on both ends just so it's got a little extra just in case something didn't go quite right or if I messed up. Now, one thing I figured out right on is that we need, right on, don't just watch and don't listen, okay? One of the things I figured out, we want to make sure that this, when we put this on there, it seats as far as possible. So I measured in here, and this guy is about 3 inches deep. And turns out this guy's about 3 inches deep right here too. So I came and I measured 3 inches down. I did this end already. Let's do this other end. Now you can see this thing's nasty. It's got dirt. This has been sitting out beside my shop for years, literally years. and so it's kind of nasty on the outside, and it wasn't great on the inside, but it's not terrible. I gave it a good wipe out on the inside. It'll be good enough. But the outside part, this first little bit right here, is what we want to make sure the dirt is off of and it's good and clean. So I just took a wet rag and kind of wiped it down real good, kind of gave it a wash. Now we want to measure so that when we cap it, when we glue it and put our pieces on, we know we've gone down far enough. Now I did the same thing when I measured to cut it. DIY Prepper is going to see this and roll his eyes at me and probably come down here and smack me around, because he's going to say there's a better way to do it. I'm an electrician, not a carpenter, so some of the stuff I might do wrong. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right here to 3 inches, and I'm going to mark a line on each side of the tape measure, and we're going to do that all the way around this guy, just like that. Doesn't have to be fancy. All this is a guide so that we know. There's been times I've glued PVC and then I'm not sure if it went in 1/8 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch, or if it went in the whole way. So we're going to do this, and then I'll have a better idea. Now, one thing I should mention, when you get the glue for stuff like this, there's different kinds of PVC glue. There we go, that's good enough. And I can, if I want to, like if I was making a cut, I could just fill in all the lines. We'll just go ahead and do it to make it easier to see, maybe. Oh, missed a big gap right here. We'll see if I'm any good at drawing. I already know I'm not. Back to the PVC glue. There's different kinds of PVC glue that you can get. Make sure that you get a glue that's rated. Yeah, that can't be right. Doesn't matter. Make sure you get a glue that's rated for large diameter pipes. Some glue, this right here, this is a medium duty cement. If you look on the back, this says it is good. Well, this actually says it's good up to 6 inches on this one. But I had one the other day that I noticed was not good to 6 inches. But you want one that is. This one says that, Spanish. This one says it's good up to 12 inches. So this is a better glue right here. And we also want to prime it. Now, when you glue up PVC, this is going to be tight. Let me loosen those up a little bit so we can get them open. When you glue PVC, it's not like putting some glue on a couple of things and sticking it together like that to work. The way PVC glue works, and it's one of the reasons you use primer, is that primer starts getting into the pores. PVC stands for polyvinyl chloride. And that glue gets into the pores and starts opening it up and softening it up a little bit and getting it ready to accept the glue. When the glue goes on there, what that glue does is, more than it provides an adhesive element, it provides a softening and swelling so that it becomes like a chemical bond that holds them together a little bit. They swell up and make a good seal that way. It's still like an adhesive as well, but it's kind of the way it adheres. See, adhesive adheres. It's the way it does that. So, let me get this guy set up. If I put primer on from this angle, it's going to run all down the pipe and it'll look bad. I don't care. But we're going to set this guy right up here, and we're going to prime it real good. We're going to do the cap end first, the kind that we can't access. Now, this is going to make a fine mess in my floor. Do I have anything I can put under this? Maybe I do. You know what? This will work. I'll set this guy here. Yeah. Alright. I glue up lots of PVC in my work, but I don't do a lot of big stuff like this. Usually 2 inches is about the biggest I do with what I do. So we're going to prime it. Pretty purple primer. We're going to prime all the way up to the line we've got here. We still on the camera? Yeah, we kind of are, aren't we? And you can feel, even with this right here, it's starting to soften up, get a little bit tacky, get a little bit sticky. I worked with a guy for a while that had, I guess, been to some certification class, he says. Of course, I think back about him, he may have been lying to me. He wouldn't do that. Nobody would lie to me. They might. And he said that the idea, and it may even say it on the can, is that you want to put the glue on if you can while the primer is still wet, because it activates it better, but it'll still be wet enough. It might not be drippy wet. Now we're going to put this in here. And then the trick when we do this is going to be to have enough glue on here that this guy slides all the way down before it sticks, because sometimes if you don't get it on there quick, it'll stick halfway and there you are, bud, you're just done. We want to avoid that. And I'm going to be unhappy if that happens. You'll get to laugh at me if it does, no question about it. Alright, that guy's good. Give this guy one more quick wipe. That's a good song. I don't know if y'all can hear that or not. Hopefully it's okay. Now we're going to get the glue going here. Normally, when I glue up PVC, I only put glue on this part right here. But like I say, I usually only do 2-inch. The idea is that because I'm usually pulling wires in the pipe, and I don't want this glue squidging out on the, is that a word, squidge? It sounds like a good word. We're going to call it squidge. We don't want the glue squidging out. When we slide this on, if there's glue inside of here very much, it's going to squidge out into here and make a mess on the inside of the pipe. I don't want that. It's okay if the outside of the pipe has got a mess. Let me see if I can make sure I talk long enough that this glue starts drying first. I want this all the way around, good and sloppy wet. And I am going to put a little bit, just a wipe, on the inside edge of this guy right here. And then we're going to set it on the floor before I take too much longer. And we're going to put it on there. There we go, it went down good. See, we can see our line right here. We know we went almost all the way to it, but I felt it come to a good stop. I'm going to make sure anyway though. Now, with PVC, when you glue PVC, because that swelling is going on in there, what can happen if you don't keep pressure on it for the first few seconds, I like to keep 20 or 30 seconds worth of pressure on it, is that pressure will push it back off as it begins swelling, and you'll lose some of what you gained. So we're going to hold that just for a moment there. Alright, that's good. I feel good about that now. I feel like that's a good glue joint. I look down in there. Not much squidge on the inside. Can you see? Let me see if I can turn that. Maybe I can. There we go. See, still nice and pretty in there. Alright, so now we're going to do this other end is the mosquito. The mosquitoes have come out. I got driven inside a while ago. By the way, when I cut this a while ago, there's a couple of different ways. See if I can work and talk at the same time. I'm always telling kids that work with me, don't stop working to talk. Keep working while you talk. So I'm going to do this. When you cut it, there's different ways to do it. I actually used a cordless Sawzall to cut this, but it's kind of tricky. If you get going too fast and aren't paying attention, your cut can just go all over the place. Another good way to do it is a saw like this. This is normally the saw that goes in a miter box to make good miter cuts. And that kind of blade right there cuts just fine. Another saw that works good are just plain old carpenter saws. Smaller saws like hacksaws and that kind of thing, not so great on pipe like this. Smaller pipe, yeah, it's okay. But a big pipe like this, you can get way off your cut pretty fast if you're not careful. Alright. I feel like in light of some of the legislation that may be coming our way from our fine people in Washington, if you can't read the sarcasm in that, you're not paying attention because it was dripping. Something like this might be a handy thing to have. And I'm not even talking about anything weird, but if things get weird, people sometimes get weird, and being able to keep something stashed out in your yard is not a bad thing to do, or out in the forest somewhere, or out in the field somewhere that only you know where it is. And if you do that, you want to make sure it's hidden very well. Now you can put hidden, I don't know, sealed up very well is what I'm trying to say. Alright, now, some glue. Yeah, as I put my fingers in there, nice, Rob. Alright. Get some glue on this guy here. Some people can do this kind of stuff without making a mess. I'm just not probably one of them. Well, a long time ago, we used to work with a guy at a textile mill. He was one of the loom techs. He worked on greasy, nasty, dusty, dirty looms all day long, and at the end of the day, this dude could wear a white shirt to work and not get stuff on it. I get stuff on me in the first 10 minutes I work. This guy'd work all 12-hour shift and come out just as clean as a whistle when he was done. We used to call him Mr. Clean. He's a good guy. But he did, man. He just didn't mess himself up. Alright, that feels pretty good now. So like I say, just a little wipe right around the edge here, just to kind of sort of lube that up a little bit right there. And then, let's get this guy on the floor. Now it's going to be a little tricky. I got to hold it because that bottom is domed. And here's this guy. Good, it went down nice. The other day I was gluing up a piece of this 6-inch stuff for my water tank. And one of the pieces didn't want to go on, and I had to encourage it with a hammer to get down on there. So let me hold this guy down just for a little longer. And this one we can see from the edge here that it made a good seal, plus I could feel it go down. So that's nice. Alright, that's probably good right there. And you know what? I think we're about good right there. Put lid on this stuff so it doesn't dry out. Let me throw something at that radio in a minute. Some of those commercials. Then what I'll do is I'll take either... I would not recommend using Teflon tape on something this large with threads this big. You could, and it might be okay, but I wouldn't. I would get a regular joint sealing compound, thread sealant compound, Rector Seal, something like that. And especially if you get one of those, this is one of those things you spend a little bit more money on, and you get a little better product. Some of them have Teflon in them, and they don't gum up and stick very bad. And that's probably what I wind up doing. I've got some here, but I don't know where it is. But when you put it on, you want to coat these threads very well, and maybe even a little bit down here. This is one of those where some of that stuff squidges out on the inside. That might be okay, because this is right here, the main place where something might leak. Now, if you put something in here, you decide to put whatever in here, give it a good coat of oil first. Real good coat of oil before you put it in. And maybe even then wrap it in some plastic, like a trash bag kind of thing, just to seal it up a little bit better, just in case it does leak some. And we're just going to get honest here, if you decide to go out and bury this somewhere or hide it outside, wouldn't hurt to wrap this in plastic as well. You know, something else you can do, you better have a good wrench, but you can actually use silicone caulk on these threads when you screw it together. And when that dries, that makes a really good seal. But you're going to need a good wrench to get it off. Just keep that in mind. I would experiment with that before you do it. And what you might want to do too is even experiment on making a couple of these with some smaller stuff, with some 4-inch PVC, even some 2-inch PVC, just to make little cash tubes, little stash spots like that. You know, something else these are really good for too, in all seriousness, is for holding fishing rods and things like that when you go camping. You know, that's probably the more practical use. If you go out camping or go out in the woods, somewhere like that. Even guys like me, when I work, there's certain tools that I keep on my ladder rack. I keep one of these on my ladder rack, and there's some certain tools I can keep inside of them that's just really handy that way. So anyway, there we go, boys and girls. We have endeavored to produce a cash tube, and there we go. Here, you know what? Put the rifle. Stick this guy down in here just because we can. How about that? I'm gonna put it in muzzle first. Now, something else to remember too is this glue is pretty solid right now, but it's not completely dry. See if I can show you this. It's not that it's heavy, but there we go. Looky there. How about that? Fits down in there nicely. It's plastic, so it's not going to scratch up much, but it still doesn't hurt to wrap anyway to keep it doing that way. And there we go. So, we got a cast tube, guys, and just one more thing to think about in all the stuff we do. Hey, thanks for watching. I appreciate y'all being here as always, and I hope this was at least a little bit informative, or maybe you picked up a couple of tips or something. Leave me any questions in the comments or any thoughts you might have. There's probably always better ways to do stuff than the way I show, and I'm always glad to learn stuff too. That's why I watch everybody else's channels. I like learning other people's ideas and opinions, even sometimes if it's opinions I don't agree with. I like to see them. I like to know what other people think, because I might be wrong. I'm not wrong. See y'all later.